Hi everyone. Yeah, tonight I thought we'd talk about Bobby because he's just been denied parole again. So I thought, yeah, it'd be a good time to talk about that. And yeah, don't shoot the messenger stream as well because it seems that a lot of violent offenders have been released early. And in I think it's the place in California will come up. But a lot of prisoners from in California have been released early. So it looks kind of contradictory that they're not releasing someone like Bobby, and so I'll get to that when I get to it. So yeah, because I know a lot of people feel strongly about these people shouldn't ever be released, but actually, the people who are being released, compared to them, have committed similarly brutal crimes. So I thought we'd talk about that tonight, basically. Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, just say hello to everyone. It's a live stream. You can hear me, right? There's nothing wrong with the audio tonight. Yeah, and there's a particular case, this guy, Jeffrey Powell, who ran into a guy, kicked in the door and stabbed the wrong man to death. It was actually the son they were after, but they stabbed the father to death. And he bled out in front of his family. They tried to save him, but they couldn't save him. And yeah, he got out having served less than his minimum term, basically. And he ran the Aryan Brotherhood gang from inside prison, so it's kind of crazy. Yeah, we'll get to that when we start talking about it now. How is everyone? Mother's Day, is it Mother's Day in America? I think we've already had it here. Ours is in March. Yes. And like I say, I haven't got many slides tonight, so don't be shy to give your opinion, because it's more of a discussion stream. And there's a short news clip about this other guy who's been released. And that's the Hinman house. That's the house where Gary Hinman was murdered, which is what Bobby is in prison for. And Charles Manson, Bruce Davis, and Susan Atkins are also convicted of this murder as well. And this is the main reasons that he gave. Governor Newsom denied basically parole again because he lacked sufficient insight into the causes of his violence, still poses unreasonable danger to the public, and the murder was brutal, callous, and calculated. And he says no evidence of growth, in fact, less insight than in previous hearings, and is concerned his music, art, is self-aggrandizement and not rehabilitation, which they all sound sort of vague. And I know a lot of other reports written about Bobby disagree with that as well. So yeah, you have a dispute with other people. And wait till you hear who he has released as well, when I tell you. When it gets to the part, yeah. And this is the thing, right? There's confusing rules about brutality and parole, and this is the California parole rules. And there's like the rules that protect inmates, which is that you can't deny parole just because the crime was bad, and the crime's brutality should not be the only reason. But there's this rule they can use that blocks parole, or set of rules they can use. And parole can be denied if brutality suggests ongoing danger or lack of remorse. And the words used are heinous, callous, cold, or unprovoked, those sorts of words. And you can see Newsom says that. And also, like, at 77, which is how old Bobby is now, and he's had a lung removed or a lung transplant or something as well, is he really still an unreasonable danger to the public? And I know a lot of other people have written reports saying a lot that contradicts that shows no evidence of growth and has less insight. But that's what Gavin Newsom thought when he read it, obviously, yeah. Yeah, like I say, the contradictory rules are used to justify keeping people inside even decades later. Because look at this now. Who gets out? This is the case of Jeffrey Powell. Very hard to find a picture of this guy as well. I had to get this from a news clip that I'll show you in a minute. But his crime was in 2013. Powell, then on parole, and two accomplices, forcibly entered a Citrus Heights home at night. Powell stabbed 52-year-old Jack Swaim multiple times as he slept on the couch. Swaim's son and mother were present and attempted to save him, but he succumbed to his injuries on the living room floor. He was convicted in 2015 of second-degree murder and first-degree burglary, sentenced to 16 years to life. parole. He was granted early parole in 2023 after serving only 10 years, despite a prison record that included 9 serious violations and leadership of the Aryan Brotherhood until 2019. And when they say leadership of the Aryan Brotherhood, they mean the whole gang. He was running it from prison, not just the prison gang in his prison, the whole gang, the outside gang as well, until 2019. And he has 9 serious violations in prison, and he gets out after serving only 10 years. And Beausoleil remains incarcerated after 55 years. This is the thing as well. Bobby has done 55 years. So it's not like he would be getting up early. And there is a news clip of the person. Yeah. We were just saying things about Gavin Newsom. He's the Antichrist. Yeah, shows how much influence the media has that counts. In the courts, yeah, well, that's it. Because the Manson case is actually similar to gang murders, really. You know, it's not dissimilar, but it's been perceived as differently, you know, by the public because of the way they've portrayed it. But actually, it's not different to these gang murders, and a lot of these gang murderers are getting out. This wasn't a gang murder. This was actually, he had had a fight with the son earlier in the evening, and he was on parole when he did this as well. And he went to try and get the son, but accidentally killed the father. Is the thing, yeah, and there is. Yeah. Bobby is wearing well. Well, he's had to have a lung operation, hasn't he, I think? But other than that, yeah. Yeah. He looks like an Aryan Superman. Yeah, that's the other crazy thing. When they say he was the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, it's not just the prison gang in his prison, but the whole gang. He was running it from prison, they're saying. That's kind of alleged, though. Makes me wonder, though, about are the Aryan Brotherhood somehow blackmailing Newsom or something like that, you know? All alleged, yeah, just speculation of that. But it does seem really strange, doesn't it? Yeah, but this guy got out. Yeah, like this guy isn't dangerous, yeah, and he's shown little evidence of, you know, the changing as well, basically, what do you call it, you know, rehabilitation. He's not shown a lot of signs of rehabilitation, apparently, and has far more serious violations than Bobby. Bobby's violations are all about making music when he hadn't asked permission in the prison he was in and stuff like that, not violence. This guy is violent violations. That's it. He will anger everyone in California if he approves any male Manson family member. But that's it. It's like, look at this case. Well, there's a news clip here as well. I'll show you the news clip of this poor family. And this is before he got approved, but he's actually out now. This was, man actually has been released.
Developing story out of Citrus Heights. It's been 10 years since a Citrus Heights man was stabbed and killed in his own home.
And 3 people were convicted in his murder. But as ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen found out, that man's family says that they're feeling re-victimized because one of them may be getting released sooner than expected. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen joins us right now in Citrus Heights with the family's cry for help. Jeannie.
Luke and Alicia, it's been a decade since that man was killed here in the Citrus Heights neighborhood. Now, even though 3 men were convicted in that crime, one of them was recently granted parole. Now, that family tells me tonight that they're going to do everything they can to make sure this person stays behind bars.
Always a jokester, just always laughing. His laugh was contagious.
These are the memories and photos Chrissy Fonseca and her cousin, Kendra Cardin, want to hold on to of their uncle, Jack Swaim.
He was always there for us kids.
But in January 2013, their uncle's life was unexpectedly cut short when he was stabbed to death in his Citrus Heights home. 3 men were convicted in his death, including this man, Jeffrey Douglas Powell. He was sentenced to 16 years to life for second-degree murder.
Yeah, that felt like justice. We felt like there's a chance these guys may never see the streets again.
But just last month during a parole hearing, Powell was granted parole after only serving a fraction of his sentence.
That's not enough. And it was clear in the parole hearing that that's how we felt. We felt that it wasn't enough time.
10
What
years
felt
less
like
than his
justice
minimum
during
term.
sentencing now feels like a slap in the face to the family.
We were completely re-victimized again.
Now, the family is fighting to get back justice once again by writing a letter to Governor Gavin Newsom.
Our goal is to have the governor rescind this date. At the very least, take it back or put it in front of a parole panel.
The family has 90 days to appeal. In the meantime, even though they continue to fight for their beloved uncle, both these cousins say they have a feeling he would be shaking his head if he were still alive.
He'd look at us, look at you girls. You go, girls, but that's enough.
Yeah, like
Let it go.
Now, I did reach out to the California Department of Corrections for comments on this story, but I did not receive a response. Back to you.
Oh, Jeannie, live for us tonight in Citrus Heights. You can just see the emotion on that family's face. Thank you for sharing that.
No, I said that's quite shocking, isn't it? And that was obviously before the guy was released, but no, the governor ignored them and he did get released. He's out now, apparently. And yeah, so, and like the family said, 16 years sounded like justice, but when he only did 10 years, it didn't feel like justice for them, obviously. And you don't think he'd ever get out for the simple reason it's associated with the Manson family. It surprises you that Leslie was probed. Well, she sued, didn't she, in the end, because she's charged with something different now. She was at her third trial. She was convicted of robbery in murder in the course of robbery instead of the whole TLB thing, like the rest of them still are. Well, Bobby's not, because Bobby's not a TLB murderer, is he? He was tried separately. So it's very confusing, yeah. Because they all were working together and all these murders are connected. Bobby was tried separately. And if you follow the alternative motives, you know, save a brother is Bobby, but he was not tried with them. Gary Hinman's murder was tried separately. And yeah, I've never covered Bobby's trials, have I? But yeah, that gets crazy as well because Mary Bruno was given immunity to testify against Bobby. But then she took back everything, said no, and like, yeah, got away with it. Basically, she'd been given immunity, so there was nothing they could do. It's crazy. Because Mary Bruno was involved with the killing of Gary Hinman as well. So the whole situation is a mess. But he has done 55 years in prison, so at least the family of Gary Hinman have that. Because that poor family, the guy only did 10 years, you know. He had a lesser charge, though. He was, I don't know how that works out to be second-degree murder as well. Apparently, sorry, I've got to get the right things back in. Second-degree murder. They burst into the house and mistakenly stabbed the father instead of the son, who was asleep on the couch. And that ends up first-degree burglary. How is that burglary? I don't know. What, did they take something on the way out? I haven't read the legal loopholes there. But I can't see how that is second-degree murder. But well, yeah. But this guy got out, basically. And yeah, what does parole really mean in California? When the rules are vague, power wins. Brutality is used selectively, not consistently. Beausoleil is over 55 years in. Others with worse records are out. Is this about public safety or public image? And like, so the comment I just showed you, people said it's because he's associated with the Manson family. And really, is he really a threat to public safety? That was one of the reasons that Newsom gave at the age that he is now. I don't think that he could, you know, start recruiting followers or do anything now at his age, and that's not what he'd do. Leslie hasn't done anything like that, has she? You know, they wouldn't. And Steve Grogan never did anything, did he? He's been out since 1985. People were saying in California they'd go mad if they let a male Manson family member out. They let Clem out in 85, didn't they? He's been out for years. Just very quietly. I think because they tortured him for days. When did the attacks actually start, though? At what point into the bit? Yeah, but it is still, you know, intentional thing, isn't it? And also, I think the thing that gets me is that Bobby, the rest of the murders only happened because of the Hinman. If you look at the chain of events, really, if Bobby hadn't done this, then But it was Manson's fault as well. Manson escalated the situation, made it worse. You know, it's a very, very confusing situation, isn't it? I kind of think if Manson had to die in prison, Bobby should as well. What we're seeing here is people that did far worse things than Bobby would have, you know, far worse records of getting out far sooner. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You couldn't believe how many cases are found today. Didn't have time to get them all, but there's women who've done worse things that have been released early as well. There's an early parole system that they can use, and some women have been released early that did incredibly brutal things as well, when they're talking about Kronwinkle and the brutality of her crime. Yeah, Clem doesn't want to be associated with it anymore. And apparently, yeah, he plays music, doesn't he? I've seen footage of him playing. People have gone and filmed him. And apparently, if you go up and talk to him, he's friendly. But as soon as he realizes you know who he is, he won't talk. Yeah, he doesn't want to talk about it, obviously. Which is probably wise, isn't it? Yeah. And the Manson trial was a farce. But this is Bobby we're talking about. He had his own trial. And I've never covered his trial. I should do, because I want to cover what Mary Bruner did, because that's crazy as well. But she ended up going to prison later for the gun shop robbery, didn't she? I've never covered that as well, yeah. Got to cover all these because it's crazy, you know, what these people did. Yeah. It is. All endlessly interesting, yeah. Yeah, and like I say, there's loads more people that have been released recently. Sacramento, that's the name I was looking for. Yeah, Sacramento in California. It's a load of prisoners in Sacramento have been released. So I don't know what's going on there. Is the prison overcrowded or whatever? But yeah, and there's an early release parole scheme that they're using and getting out early. But the Aryan Brotherhood guy looks really strange. But it's kind of alleged. I don't know if he's been, that he's the Aryan Brotherhood guy. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, but how many people are still alive that actually remember it happening? That's what you got to remember, David. The governor nowadays is looking at the letters he gets. How many people actually remember it now? There's not actually that many still around. If you think about it, are they? You know, that actually really still remember it. And also, it was only because it was so publicized as well, wasn't it? It was so it hit the media so hard. And they lied about what happened as well, didn't they? They said that they just went into random people's houses, so it could have happened to anyone. But actually, if you look at it, no, they had reasons to go to each house they went to. They didn't go to random houses. It's not true. But that's why people panicked so much, wasn't it? Because they made people feel like, any hippies could suddenly randomly turn and start, war. Newsom was setting a president with the power parole, associating power with the Aryan Brotherhood, is also helping to set the new president. Unfortunately for Bosley, he's a Manson associate, yeah. But that's not going to be a good enough reason now if they're releasing other people, because the way they look at these things has to change, There's new laws coming in. They can't treat them like they're different, because actually there was bike gangs involved in that, and they know about gangs now. They can't deny this any longer, They have to treat these as gang-related crimes. And that's what their defences need to be going for, Hopefully they will. And the governor has to take this shit into account if their defences go for it properly, and do it. Which they probably will. And they can sue the governor as well. That's what Leslie did. They sued the governor. He could have lost his power to veto override parole for the rest of time for all the other governors as well, if he didn't let her go. Yeah, he did. But that's a long time ago as well, isn't it? Everyone quotes that, but that's like right back in the 70s, isn't it? That he said that. And how many, young people today know that, even know who he is? That sort of thing. It gets brought up. Does it get? I don't even know if that gets brought up. These, but I think there are prosecution people that will bring up those old comments. But yeah, that was really a really old interview, wasn't it? Though, where he said all that sort of stuff. Yeah. He was the obvious example, but California convicted of Manson of crimes they admit he didn't do, but at O.J. Walker murders they know he did. Release Leslie Van Houten claim, but keep Bobby on for 55 years, yeah. And Bruce as well. Really, what Bruce is actually convicted of. So, you know, a lot of people think he probably did more and was more involved with other things and all that, but what he's actually convicted of, he's another one that's probably only been held because of his association with the Manson family, yeah. Neck cramp or something. Yeah. Sorry. The Aryans, Splunker hood are just as dangerous, yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's crazy. And like I say, there's loads more prisoners associated with other gangs that have been released early. And it starts to make it look sort of weird that they're saying what this 77-year-old man is such a danger to society. When half the young people now don't even know who he is or anything, you know what I mean? He's had to have, you know, he's not. I don't think he's that unwell. He's had the lung transplant or whatever, but he's not in the greatest of health, obviously, if he needed that, is he? So I don't think he really does pose a risk. He's reasons don't stand up to scrutiny. You know, if he's got a good defence, that you're going to pull it apart and sue like Leslie did. They probably can. And really, the Hinman murder was a robbery as well, wasn't it? If Leslie got her charge downgraded to robbery for the LaBiancas, it's strange that Bobby's didn't. But at the end of his trial, so I looked into this, he was convicted of first-degree murder. That's what he's convicted of, not robbery. Yeah, that's it. Well, I've done a couple of streams, at least one stream talking about Bruce, haven't I? Yeah. Yeah, very, very strange. He travelled around a lot. Yeah, and it's unclear exactly what he did. And yeah, a lot of Zodiac murders. He was in the right place at the right time to have done and stuff like that. Yeah, and was in London at certain times. Was possibly there when Joel Pugh died. I think Bobby should get parole because of the time served and being non-violent in prison. Well, that was my point about the 10 years. The guy doing 10 years doesn't seem like enough, does it? But 55 years is a lot, isn't it? You know. Yeah, this is one of my contentions. Bobby was the reason CLA Drive happened, to make it look like it was the Black Panthers who did it, and then get Bobby freed for the same reason in the Hinman murder, to blame it on the Panthers. Yeah. And I don't think that Susan and Leslie would have taken part in the TLB murders if it weren't for Bobby. And also in the penalty phase, Susan talks about how they also thought Bobby was Jesus as well. So like they worship Bobby as much as they worship Manson. You know, like, and it's like he was part of the motive for the TLB murders, you know, and because he was tried separately, that's never been taken into account legally, has it? So they can't take it into account when paroling it. Sorry, just reading the chat. I'm saying something about Drew Barrymore. Got nothing to do with Bobby, but yeah. Drew Barrymore has been considered for Carol Ann in Spielberg's blockbuster Poltergeist. Instead, he put her in his little family movie E.T. Yeah. Sorry, everyone's talking about what? E.T. now, aren't they? Yeah. Sorry, I'm meant to be talking about Bobby. Come on. Yeah, they said they shouldn't use that against Bobby, though, because it's not like he convinced them to go and do it. But people can test that because he did make a phone call, didn't he? But is that him giving a command? And also, Susan would just be scared because she took part in the murder of Gary Hibman. She was scared he would talk, so she was trying to get him a lawyer to get him out. She wanted to get him out so he wouldn't incriminate her. So it wasn't all for love of him. But Leslie actually showed up with Bobby. She was with Bobby longer than she was with Manson. So Leslie probably went trying to free Bobby. So, like, yeah, it wasn't his fault that, yeah, all these girls, well, it kind of was because he seduced them and let them, you know, think he was Jesus or whatever. And he was, like I say, maybe for the after show, we'll watch Invocation of My Demon Brother again. Who was here for that? Who missed it? We watch it again since it's a Bobby stream. But he was in all these films and portrayed us. It's not Invocation of My Demon Brother where you see him as Lucifer. I can't remember which one it is. But he was in several Kenneth Anger films and that, you know. And he was in a porn film with, well, a soft porn film with Gypsy, wasn't he? Ramrodder and all that sort of stuff. He was a sex symbol to the girls. They were all in love with him, probably more than they actually loved Manson, you know. But they didn't want you to know that in court. They wanted you to think it was all over Manson. Because it links to drugs and bikers if you look too much at the Hinman crime. And they had to make it look like it was about anything but drugs and human trafficking and all that sort of thing, didn't they? Sorry, just look at the chart. Use him as a politician first. At this point, he's really worried about another bad soundbite. Reason doesn't apply. Yeah, that's it. And if they sue him as well, because he can refuse them and he knows that they'll just sue and he'll have to rescind it, but then at least he doesn't have to publicly let them out. He can say, I tried not to, you know what I mean? So yeah, he can do no wrong, can he really? If they get out by suing him. Which if they've got a good enough defence, they will end up doing. Yeah, that's it. The panic set in when Bobby got arrested and the ones that were at the Hinman house were freaking out, yeah. And I do believe that there was some kind of MDA thing that had gone wrong. There wasn't another additional motive for them to go to CLA Drive. Yeah, that was why they picked CLA Drive. And Waverley was just, all we know for sure is that Lino had some kind of confrontation with Charlie. So it's possibly just they targeted them because of that. But, you know, there's other, like, more speculative motives for why they chose the LaBiancas as well. But they definitely weren't strangers. They don't tell you that they actually lived next door to the LaBiancas. They parked their bus on the drive of the house next door for a few months. Yeah. Is it in Lucifer Rising? That you see Bobby? I didn't think. Yeah, because I know he did the music for Lucifer Rising, didn't he, in the end? Because Jimmy Page took too long or whatever, apparently. Yeah. Yeah, oh God, Opalikas, yeah. It's the baby that fell through the sky light, isn't it? Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. This is the crazy thing about Mary and what she did in court as well. She, in the end, withdrew everything she said against Bobby because Bobby was representing himself at one point, apparently. So he got to cross-examine Mary. And Mary withdrew everything, said, no, you're innocent, basically. But they had given her immunity, so there's nothing they could do about it. And she did do some time in prison. So it's briefly mentioned in the book about Leslie Van Houten, the long prison journey of Leslie Van Houten. Mary was in prison with them for a little while there over the Hawthorne gun shop robbery. She did do some time in prison. And they talk about her learning to play the flute, or she had a flute. She already could play the flute. And they gave her access to instruments and she played the flute. So yeah, crazy. Yeah, and I don't know what's happened to her now. I know from Mike Bruner's met her now. You know, that her son, the Pooh Bear, the baby Pooh Bear, has met her, I think, now. And I think she's just got married and lived a normal life, didn't she? Basically. Yeah, the Hawthorne shootout, yeah, she went to prison over that, and Gypsy did as well, didn't she? And I think other people, I think it was mainly other men, wasn't it, that went to prison over that. Yeah, she got away with being convicted of the Hinman murder, so she could still be in prison now if she hadn't got immunity. Much like Linda Kasabian got immunity for the CLA Drive thing. Mary also was lucky to get out of being convicted of Gary Hinman, basically. Offspring told LAPD that Leslie went on runs with the Straight Satans. Yeah, I know. I read in that book that the guy who went out with Leslie while she was out between her trials, is it Peter Chiaramonte? I think you pronounce his name, or something like that, whatever his name is. He said that he heard that when Leslie complained about having to sleep with bikers, Manson drove her up in a dune buggy to the edge of a cliff and told her it was either go off the edge of the cliff or sleep with the bikers. So yeah, they were forced to sleep with the bikers as well as go out and commit crimes with them, I think, yeah. She was shot as well during the Hawthorne shootout. Wow. Like I say, I've never covered that, but that's the other crazy thing. Like I say, I've never covered Bobby's trials. He had 2 trials, and Manson had another trial all of his own as well. I've never covered that. I think in that Manson Shadows video at the beginning of my streams, there, the footage of him wearing denim and walking in on his own. I think that's from his own trial. I've never covered that. But well, you hear about it briefly when I talk about Ella J. Bailey. So Ella J. Bailey had to testify at his own trial. Yeah, and I've never covered that, you know. But yeah, I would like to cover Bobby's trial just to read what Mary Bruner says. Yeah, because she flies in the face of everything. She takes back everything, but there's nothing they can do about it. Much like, you know, some kind of similar to what Carla Homolka did. But that was a very different crime. They were sex motivated murders, were they? Very different crimes. But Paul Bernardo and his wife, she got immunity, and they found out later she was far more involved and probably shouldn't have got immunity. Yeah, sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah, you know. So I want to read out Mary's bit, and I don't know if Susan was called to testify at Bobby's trial, or if she was she tried with Bobby, or did she have another trial of her own? I think she was tried with Bobby, presumably, wasn't she? Bloody hell! Yeah, I'll have to look into that. What happened there? Because I know Susan did get convicted of Hinman as well. So presumably, did she get tried at the same time as Bobby for that? Yeah. Like I say, Manson's other trial, that's about Shorty Shea, I assume, as well, and his involvement with Hinman. And I think Manson's brought in Bobby's trial as well, yeah. So like I say, I'll have to cover Bobby's trial, won't I? Yeah. Since it looks like he might actually get out soon. Yeah. Shocking. Like I say, I didn't think I'd see the day. But, you know, I didn't think they'd ever let Leslie out. But, yeah, it turns out they have to because they're letting so many other people out that are worse. Yeah. Yeah. And Katz wrote a book expressing his disgust with Mary Bruner being granted immunity. What, a whole book just about that? Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've read in blog articles that, yeah, it's crazy what she said when she was testifying, basically. And she'd been obviously given immunity to testify against Bobby. And then totally rescinded everything she said. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was actually, there were 2 theories about Hawthorne. They planned to get weapons to free Manson from the courthouse. And they plan to kidnap a passenger airline flight and start dumping bodies out one at a time until law enforcement agreed to free Charles Manson. I thought they were going to try and bust him out of prison, which seems absolutely crazy because they had like guard towers and guns and that. I thought they were going to try and smash the wall and get him out of prison or something and something like that. That was what the point was. I don't know though. Like I say, I'll have to look into it and cover it. And also Nancy Pittman and her boyfriend went down for murder as well. And I've never covered that, but yeah, they buried a guy in the basement. That story sometimes gets mixed up with Zero. They didn't bury Zero in the basement. That was Nancy Pittman and her boyfriend killed a guy they were living with and buried him in the basement. Yeah, and she went to prison. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it was prison or courthouse. Yeah, I think it was actually prison. They were going to try and break Manson out of prison. And the girls at one point, they caught the girls trying to carve through the bars in a room that they were allowed to go into during the day, because there was a time when they were kept separately on a whole bloody wing of their own, and there was like their cells, and there was like a day room they could all go and sit in, and they caught them trying to chisel away at the bars, and that was because they were told they were going to be busted out, basically. Yeah. I can talk about Jimmy Page. Page is the High Priest of Rock. He's on Rushmore Tigers. Maybe we should watch Lucifer Rising then for the after show, since Bobby's in that as well and did the music. Better music than Invocation by Demon Brother. But you see Bobby more in Invocation by Demon Brother. Yeah. Yeah, Pittman did the prison time for the murders, yeah. And she was and the boyfriend she was with as well, yeah. Yeah. saying Mother's Day. Mother's Day, yeah, I think you must have it on a different day to us. Yeah, because ours is already gone. Ours is in March, I think. Yeah. Happy Mother's Day to the Americans watching. If you're a mother, maybe we should play some Frank Zappa in the after show. The mothers. Yeah. But I've only been going 40 minutes. But yeah, I thought I should cover this because he's been denied this week. And like I said, that's only the tip of the iceberg, that case, that one case I covered. There's loads of people that have been released early because of early release schemes. And it is just a political thing at this point, yeah, because they're so publicly well known. And if it's just one person's family appealing to him, he doesn't care. But because it's the whole public. And he'll probably say no, knowing that they'll get out anyway by suing him. But then he has to have publicly given them, parole, doesn't he? But he's also got to be seen to take into account, modern things like the gang aspect of the crime and the abuse aspects of the domestic abuse aspects of the crime, and that they're trained to consider these things more than were originally considered. The public perception of these crimes is quite wrong because these people were young and were victimized by older people, and and they have done an incredibly long time in prison. If you're going to let guys out after doing 10 years, I mean, in the UK, 10 years is a life sentence in the UK. And if it's particularly bad, then the judge might say you can do 20 years before you're eligible for parole. Or if you're like an absolute danger to the public, you can do a whole life tariff, so you'll never get that out. But that's quite rare. But 10 years is a life sentence in the UK. And Bobby has done 55 years, or more than 55 years. That's a rounded up sum. It's actually more than that now. And Patricia Krenwinkel is the longest serving woman in California, and that, isn't she? So it's not like they've got off lightly. Since they're letting, and like I say, the case of the woman that's been let out before her minimum term and what she actually did, the brutality of her crime, was really quite shocking. I'll talk about that, yeah. Yeah. Oh, you don't know the audio, do you? Right, yeah. Sorry about the audio quality sometimes. The fan on my computer is really loud. That's why I'm using this headset now. I think it does filter out a bit of that noise more, but yeah. And I did manage to fix the fan. Something was making the fan rattle more than normal. I managed to fix that now. And Mary and Gypsy. I think there was other men involved though. Wasn't that Aryan Brotherhood dudes they started hanging around with? And Charlie was involved with them inside prison, and they were acting under Manson's, behest or whatever. I think it wasn't just them alone, was it? There was men involved as well with the robbery. Yeah, like I say, the whole way this crime has been perceived by many for many years is different now to how people would look at it today. How younger people would look at it, and also just how this would have been tried in the past is different. They would have been seen as human trafficking victims, and there would have been more made of that. They wouldn't have got away with it as easily. Yeah. Or did they go to the Beach Boys' hometown to do that? Yeah. Is that to intimidate Melcher? Probably not. So. Krenwinkel keeps their brains in a lunchbox. Who said that? Was that a Manson quote, is it? Thinking all of the people who have helped expose these cases for what they really were. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people now, and they can't silence us anymore, really, can they? They can't silence everyone. And it's not like it goes viral and takes the world by storm, is it? In fact, other channels are having much more success than me at getting it out, aren't they? I'm just a research channel. I'm just there to show people the source material so they can make their own videos or write their own articles and books or whatever the hell they're doing. Oh, what, Harold True said that about Krenwinkel. Right. Yeah, I know she said at trial she took a lot of acid. She took it like 300 times or something like that. And, yeah. She said, I've taken so much acid, I am acid. Because I used that on the thumbnail quote, didn't I? And I could only find that from newspaper articles as well, not the actual transcript of what she got said at penalty phase, because, yeah, that's impossible to find. Yeah. Well, there's nothing on the text tapes. Well, the thing about the text tapes is they say it's about other cases that are still open, because there's loads and loads of other murders that the Manson family are suspected of. So not the Tate LaBianca murders, but other murders, and it's about information about them that's on the tapes. That's why they won't let the public hear them. But yeah, when I heard that Pastor Ray had the text tapes, I thought, oh, well, that probably means there's nothing on them, because Pastor Ray is the guy that wrote "Will You Die For Me," and that's just a load of bullshit, really. What he says in "Will You Die For Me." But then I thought maybe they gave Pastor Ray a fake tape, and it's not really the text tapes. Yeah. And I'd like to hear if psychiatrists made any tapes of text when they were interviewing him as well, because we only get reports that they've written up, summaries of what they said to him. And only what they want to show the court as well. We don't see everything that they wrote about him. And I want to know if they hypnotized him. They're bound to have hypnotized him, aren't they? And, there's so much they don't tell us. Yeah. They want some tapes are full of revealing information. That's why we're not allowed access, yeah, basically. Isn't it? I wonder if it's him being coached about the Helter Skelter narrative as well, so he doesn't fuck up and say the wrong thing and admit it was all about over. And I think they were worried about it coming out about Melcher and the Manson girls and that, weren't they? They were making sure he didn't say anything about that. Well, no one said anything about that, basically. That was something that Bugliosi had been paid or hired to cover up. She can't look over your iced coffee. And my cat's trying to get on my lap, but he gets his claws in my legs. He's sat poised right next to me. He likes the coffee. So he knocks it over so he can drink it up. Unless someone who had a dog that used to knock beer over so they could look it out the carpet, they'd have beer. He talks about the return visit to Cielo on the tapes. The text didn't go back, did he? Text wasn't the one that went back. So they say. My money's on it being Clem that Manson took back with him now, after what I've heard, but I don't know. Can't verify these things, yeah. But yeah. The tapes of people involved who were never charged. Yeah, it's that kind of thing. That's what they're saying. Yeah, it involves other cases and other things. And that's why they won't let us hear it, basically. But there's a lot of stuff that we haven't seen, like statements from people that are there and they're not hidden from the public, but you just have to go and look at them. No one's digitized them, sort of thing. But, loads of people are interviewed about this, and there's loads of statements that are just there and they're not hidden. We just have to go and look at them. And no one's going to scan them and digitize them, Yeah, well, this is the thing that he says in the Manson file. He says that the killers left and actually left Folger and Frykowski alive. They killed Sharon and Jay first and left Frykowski and Folger tied up and alive, and then went back and killed Frykowski and Folger. And then again, more people returned and moved the bodies around. So, but yeah, I can't get my head around that. Yeah, there are reports, that Tex was there later. Well, they were obviously there much later than they said they were, aren't they? If you look at the stand reports, the whole thing is just a massive cover-up. We'll never know exactly what happened, will we? They made sure of it. Bill Boyd, Texas lawyer, said he told me about a bunch of other people Manson had killed. A Hell's Angel, people like that. Yeah, there is something about the Hell's Angels that Manson says in an interview. Triptych thing he says about Tex losing a piece of his mind in some kind of thing with the Hell's Angel. I actually got the clip. I've got the clip as a video clip. Tex never had his own mind. But yeah, he won't say anything else. You know, he teases you with it, but there is. And also, text mentions Manson taking part of his mind in his psychiatry report as well. So that is kind of backed up by text, but text doesn't mention Hell's Angels to the psychiatrist. Leslie's attorney was paroled to shop her attorney. Well, I'm thinking they might do that with Krenwinkel now, because if Krenwinkel demands a new trial, then they might have to admit all the stuff about Melcher and Melcher perjuring himself and that. So might they just give her parole in case she gets another trial, so they don't have to admit all that? I can see that happening. And Leslie as well. What if Leslie's defense was threatening to bring up all that? Basically, yeah. So they're going to let them out quietly, so they don't get new trials and have to expose all the Melcher perjuring himself and all that. That's 51 minutes now. Yeah, and I said everything I wanted to say. Because I just wanted to cover this because it's the week that Bobby got denied parole again. And like I say, also, did you see the cat leap across the camera there? There's his tail. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know he's famous. You don't know you're on YouTube, do you? No. Can't even remember what I was saying now. The cat distracted me. Sorry about that. Takes to scare you the most, yeah. Well, I don't know. Charlie himself, I think, was pretty disgusting, but he also was a patsy, I think, and he was exploited, and his own mental conditions were exploited. You know, they let him take the fall, and knew that he wouldn't tell the truth because he would see it as breaking the criminal code, sort of thing. And he took, probably took a lot to his grave, Charles Manson, about what really happened and why it happened and all that sort of shit, And he thought he was doing the right thing by the criminal code, but really he was just taking all the responsibility for stuff that other people should have actually gone to prison for, Probably just a matter of time for Krenwinkel to get out, unless they open the doors. I think for more to be considered for parole, yeah. And like I say, wait till I show you some of the other cases of people that have committed crimes more recently as well, and have done less than their minimum terms. And people like Krenwinkel and Bobby have done 55, 60 years in prison. Do you know what I mean? They're the longest serving. Krenwinkel is the longest serving prisoner. So you can't say they got off lightly, can you? They did a lot of time in prison. Yeah, that's it. He's clawing the sofa as well. I don't know if you can hear that every now and then. You don't know I'm live, do you? He doesn't know what's going on. At least you can't see his arsehole. He's not showing that right to the camera. It's only his tail. Yeah. That's all right. He's gone now. There you go. That was Sam, everybody. Yeah. I don't think he has a podcast. I know that there has been things posted randomly, and he called it a blog, but the post just vanishes every month. It doesn't stay up, like a blog. Yeah, he has a website. He does have 5 kids. The wife left him, though I think he has another wife now, weirdly enough. And he is a minister in prison. He ministers to people in prison. Yeah, his wife left him. Do they come out every week? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's shocking that he was, and Bobby had kids with his wife as well, I think. But Bobby is arguably not as bad as Tex, because Bobby acted under duress, and I don't think, Bobby is as vicious as Tex. That's the thing that's so bad about Tex, is how much he stabbed people in that. That's why he will probably never get out, because he really was so vicious. Basically, he is a danger, always will be. Yeah, that's it. Well, it was Sharon Tate's mum, wasn't it? Doris Tate got the conjugal visits taken away for convicted murderers in California, yeah. But Bobby was in another state, I think, for a while as well, while he was married. But he got moved back to California. See how they came out of Susan's right in my mind. It's Linda, isn't it? Linda is the one that was the drug dealer and made some kind of drug deal with them. And Susan just wanted to get money to free Bobby. And there's also this thing that's covered up that they possibly knew Abigail Folger and went up there to ask her for money, and that Abigail Folger was possibly one of the people that had given Bobby and Charlie money in the past. And maybe they went up there to ask her for money, and it went wrong, and they ended up trying to rob them, and it turned incredibly violent, and they all died. Something like that. I think Leslie and Pat are true Christian converts, not Tex, Bruce, or Susan. Well, Pat was before as well. When she was a child, she had certificates for scripture, that sort of stuff. And I imagine Leslie probably would have been raised to be some kind of Christian as well before. She studied Buddhism as well, didn't she? And yeah, well, I think Tex probably uses Christianity just as a means to cope with what he did, so get through life. Being born again, he can disassociate from what he did, and cope with his everyday life and get through it. Yeah. Yeah, they knew Folger from the hate, yeah. That same bookshop. Someone posted a picture of the bookshop that Folger worked at. Another Manson girl is supposed to have worked at that same bookshop or something, isn't she? Yeah, that's another connection. And she funded an event that Bobby's band played at. So was probably there watching it, wasn't she, as well? But there's not a lot of hard evidence. But yeah, it's just anecdotal evidence that Abigail Folger knew them. They weren't strangers to them. Yeah. You met Dennis Wilson much earlier. Yeah, well, I've heard that he met him much earlier than they say. He didn't really meet him. The story goes that the Manson girls snuck into the house as hitchhikers and then let Manson in. Dennis Wilson already knew Manson, apparently, yeah. I've heard he met him at Gary Hinman's house, weirdly enough, because they all knew Gary Hinman as well, didn't they? Yeah, crazy. Yeah, he just hates Susan's personality, yeah. So, yeah, it was more Linda. Directly chased the LA Drive. It could be a number of reasons, because, just from what you hear. Anecdotally, there's more and more, in Chaos, Charles Tuckott says that he did know Charlie, didn't he? He says that he took Charlie to a party, so the Canadians may have known the Manson family. So it's plausible Tex and Linda knew Billy Doyle on that. So was it in retaliation for the Doyle incident as well? Were they involved with the Canadians? That's what I'm starting to believe now as well. That it wasn't just the Manson family that were doing this. The Canadians were possibly involved with CLA Drive as well. And they all got themselves alibis. But actually, some of their alibis were false. Yeah. No, that's not Shrek that says that. That's actually fucking Mary Terry, believe it or not. Shrek didn't say that. No, that's Mary Terry. That's come from, unfortunately. Abigail and Shorty had lunch with Manson, and Mary Terry says the source for that is an FBI agent that was watching them all. Basically, yeah. But that's Mary Terry. So, do you believe it, Mary Terry? Yeah, that's another claim about Folger being seen eating a meal with Shorty Shea, which put Shorty Shea with the Manson family when he was in Haight-Ashbury, when Manson was in Haight-Ashbury. So that means Shorty Shea would have been in the Haight as well, because he meets them later at the Spahn Ranch. Yeah, that's it. I know I say his name wrong. I don't care. Well, we've been going an hour now, right? So I might end this and do an after show in a minute. But yeah, thank you for coming, and I'll see you next week. I don't know what I'll do next week. Now. I might do the polygraph thing that I promised this week, but yeah, seeing Bobby get denied. Just wanted to talk about this and show how it is starting to look like it really is a political thing now, and people need to start coming to terms with that. They've done. Oh, there goes the cat again. They've done like nearly 60 years in prison. Other people are getting out after doing 10 years for doing things that are just as bad. And people need to start looking at these crimes differently because they're similar to gang-related crimes as we see it today. And the human trafficking aspect has to be taken into account. And I think we might see the Cromwell get that out just so they don't have to acknowledge how the human trafficking happened. Crazy. But yeah. Anyway, I'll end this one now, and I'll give you an after show if you want. Just give me a few minutes. Oh yeah, it's 1 o'clock here. Anyway, yes, I'll see you for the after show if you want to come. If not, I'll see you next week. Thanks for coming.